And we knew about slaking. It's called the slake or aggregate stability test. We've known about it since the 1930s. This information has not been used. It's been around since the 30s. In fact, if you look at the soils of men, they talked about aggregation way back then. The Russians knew even further back then. Some of the most brilliant soil microbiologists came from Russia. The Russians were way ahead of us. And then everything went south after that. There was a lot of great research in the turn of the century in biology. And then all of a sudden, the industrial agriculture model came in, and then it went down after that. Okay, so what we're going to do is, okay, now we have another bucket. We're gonna run out of tubes here.
You need an empty bucket?
Yeah, I just need more water. Just go grab some more water, would you? Okay, here's what we're gonna do. First, I want you guys to come and do some application. Get closer so I can show you. Okay, here's the thing I want you to notice right here. Remember I was talking about those 5 spheres that need to be present? The soils that are showing those spheres, now if you would have picked up the whole shovelful, you would have leaves on the top of that surface. If you go to your lawn, or anybody, a lawn or a grass ecosystem, notice right here as you pull it, what do you see right here? Come and look at this. This is what you see, that skin, that residue. That is always present. In fact, your corn and your soybeans, they shed leaves. Part of that process is to cool that soil surface down to protect the microbes. Plants don't have feet, so they have to change and modify that habitat. So I can tell a lot by an operation whether they have skin on that soil. We want to be able to have skin as long as possible. The neat thing about having that skin, where there is skin, there is no crust. There is no crust. Where there is no carbon on top of that soil, you will have a crust. Why is having a crust? No-till will crust. You still have to have a skin on that surface. Why is crusting a big issue? Guys?
So you can't push through it.
Exactly. You start crusting and you have problems with CO2 oxygen interface. I don't want crusting. So you got to remember that skin is absolutely critical. That's why we're starting to roll our cover crops or having that skin. That residue is extremely critical. Now watch when I break this open. Look at the color. Look at the color of this soil, the forest soil, and look at the other ones. These are the same soil types within the same farm, right? Similar soil types. But I want you to notice those dark colors are those super molecules I'm talking to you about. And the way, and also the first thing I do is I break this open and I want to see all these spheres present. Notice when I break this open, look at the aggregates that it's forming. That's what I want. That's what creates those pore spheres. That's called the agradosphere. Notice that? Plants and microbes create those. It's the fusion of the sand, silts, and clays to create giant pores. That's what we're doing. And see these incredible aggregates. And now look at the colors. These are the super molecules I was telling you about. They're hydrophobic. They can shed water. They hold nutrients and they embed the nutrients into the mineral. Biology did this. If you look at the base geology, it looks like that. But biology changes it to this color. That's geology. That's living biology. What's the difference between these systems? That has a living root 24/7. This is why if you look at the corn and soybean, keep in mind, you put a legume out there, this is why it's hard to make it work in a corn soybean rotation. If you don't have enough energy flow and your soils don't look like this. If you're honest, go to each of your forests. I don't care if you're in Kentucky, I don't care where you're at, you're going to see the same thing. So the way I talk to a producer, I had a producer call me and heard me speak in a radio station. He says, "Can you come to my place?" This happened in Wisconsin. And I said, "How am I in the world am I going to convince a producer in less than 20 minutes to do cover crop and no-till?" He was strip till corn and soybean. I grabbed a shovel, went to the edge of the forest, went to your field, and this is exactly what we saw. I said, this is your farm, and this is the way nature farms. Convert it to cover crops and no-till. It's that simple, once you gave them the proper context. Okay? This is why I tell producers, cover crops are not optional. This changes infiltration, it affects nutrient cycling, it affects everything. But it also reflects the balance of the microbes so you don't have pathogens and disease. If you have too much nitrogen in the inorganic form, your plants are more susceptible to disease and pathogens. When we start getting into this, I will tell you, when you soil sample this field, if you sample this and you sample this, nitrogen will be very low in this. In fact, how many of you have done the soil sample on the grass system? Anybody?
Yeah.
And how much nitrogen was in it?
Yeah, I know.
Very little. And I'm saying, hold on a second, I'm growing grass this tall, and the forest is so huge, where's the nitrogen coming from? If I did a regular soil test, there'd be nothing in there. How would you answer that?
So it's in the organic form.
It's in the organic form. We knew, the Russians knew since the 1930s, plants could take up organic N. In college, there was 2 forms they took up. What did they tell us? Ammonium and nitrate. That was the whole party. That's what they told us. That was wrong. We know that plants can take up organic forms of nitrogen. This has larger pools of organic N. So when I look at a soil test right away, I don't even have to be on your place. I know by looking at the Haney test, your forms of organic nitrogen. I look at that ratio right away. Is it CRP? I can tell if it's CRP. I can tell if you're using covers by looking at the pools of organic N. It will be higher than the inorganic. So it's easy to see that. We've done this in many, many verifications in many thousands and thousands of fields. Okay? Now look at the forest. Now, the forest is also building aggregates, but it's typically on a forest soil, it would be darker than this. So I don't know how this is managed, but it just is what it is. Okay? Now let's just do this real simple and start with the aggregate stability. I'll show you what's going to happen. Let's just do these 2 first, okay? And then we'll put more water in there. Okay, let's do this. We're going to grab, and before we do that, I want you to smell that and pass it around. Let's smell it, guys. Pass it around. I want you to tell me what you smell.
What is it?
How does it smell? Pass it around. What did you smell?
A little bit of acrid smell.
Was there an earthy smell?
It's an earthy smell, but yeah, I can't quite compare it to anything, but it's earthy smell. Yeah.
Well, we'll give you a comparison right here in a second.
Yeah.
Okay? That earthy smell is created by actinobacteria. I want them present because they help break down residue. Also, that earthy smell is created by bacteria that give off that chemical smell is geosmin. It also increases endorphins in your and it helps. That earthy smell is actually increases endorphins and actually makes you happy. Scientists have shown that. The endorphins. That's why you guys love to till, man. You smell that earthy smell and you get inebriated and go, ooh, it smells so good. Yeah, but yours.
You have a new term of it, tilling high.
Tilling high, there you go. You go, whoa. What I tell people, learn how to smell your soil, because if you have no smell, now notice this, we'll pass this one right here. Notice, what I want you, before we pass it around, here's a young, strong young man, try to break that open.
You need a pick.
So when they broke open, smell it. What does it smell like? There's no smell. If it smells like metal, metallic, it's anaerobic.
There's more decaying going on.
That's that earthy smell now. There's no earthy smell in it. Pass that around and smell that. And notice how it broke up in chunks, right? Now let's break that open.
Put that. Well, I don't want to do your test there. There.
You see how soft that is? Now look at this. Breaks up in blocks and chunks. That soil right here, this is why producers can cut their field costs. They can get on the field sooner than somebody that's doing conventional tillage. Why? Soils are soft, they're spongier, and they have a higher tensile strength with the living covers because those glues hold the structure. This right here can hold nothing. It'll sink, it'll collapse. In this field, I'm 5'10". At the edge of the field, I'll be 6'10". It'll stick. That will not stick. Those biotic glues are hydrophobic and they hold more structure. And they smell better, they're softer, Jesus is very forgiving. You can, no smearing. That's why that old gentleman could plant with broken springs and a worthless no-till planter. Get a consistent stand. That's why. Most people, you have to have this very sophisticated equipment because you have soil conditions and you create it like that. Okay? Now let's watch what happens. Let's do that. We'll do this. We'll grab a chunk of that. Go ahead and drop that in there.
In there?
Yeah. And then we'll drop a chunk up here. You put it in there. Okay. Now, drop that one in there. Go ahead and drop that one in there. Okay, the way it happens is I told them to collect it air dry. When you do this air dry. So in other words, water, you want all the moisture out of the soil. Right now, the water is rushing to fill the pore space. That's exactly what's happening. A good, healthy soil will not break apart. A good, healthy soil will not fall apart. As water fills in the pore spaces, pressures build up. If you have the biotic glues to hold the sands and silts and clays in suspension, this is what happens. When your soil is degraded, there is no biotic glues. There's no organic mineral complexes, cementing agents holding the soil together. The soil only lasts, its aggregates only last 27 days. They're always being consumed and built and consumed and eaten. This soil, you see all the clays and silts. If you look at clay under the microscope, it looks like little layers of pancakes. You can't see clays. They're that tiny. You can see the silts here in suspension. If it goes in suspension, this is what plugs up the pores. This is why you have runoff off your fields. The pores collapse, water runs off. So when you till, you wake up the R. strategis bacteria. What does that mean? R. strategis are rapid metabolic rate. They eat all this dark, humic.
That's from the ecological curve. R versus K strategies, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're all K strategists.
Exactly, yeah.
You multiply, when you have 2 or 3 kids, you put a lot of energy towards them. You might have 4. Depending, you might even have 10.
So R is the exponent, E to the R, K, E to the R. That's the population growth in an ecological system.
Exactly. You wake these guys up, boom, they explode, they eat the organic matter. And then they die, release nitrogen into the soil, and then you stimulate the weeds. Thank you very much. I used to do that. I disced all the time. I was destroying my soil, releasing more weeds, and making it worse. That's why the highway department uses a disc. It is a great tool for destruction and getting rid of the pore space. When you're building a highway, you don't want pore space. When you want to grow crops, you want pore space. Okay? So look at the difference between these two systems. Now, the forest.
Someone with me? No, very good. No.
No tillage. There's got fungi up the wazoo in the forest ecosystems. It's the fungi and the bacteria that build the aggregates with the plants and make the house. Look how the forest held together. Okay? Now let's try the no-till. In fact, we don't even, look how buoyant that is. And if it does break apart, do you notice how clear it is?
Yeah. The silts are still holding on.
It still holds on, and it's clear. Look at this. And this is how we were able to get the soil health movement to grow. I started this with a bunch of little jars and started traveling the whole country. That's the way I was able to connect with producers. I was able to connect with producers that has the most indurated surface on the planet between the years. It is hard to get people on because they don't realize how it works. Look at that. Look at the forest. Look at the pasture. Look at the forest. Remember, the forest puts all their carbon on the out. The pastures and prairies put it all into the soil. That's why grasses are some of the most powerful cover crops. Okay? Now, ready for the next one? Let's grab a no-till. Grab one of those. Yeah, and make it smaller. There you go. Thank you, sir. Okay, let's see how the no-till is holding up. And do we have one with a no-till on the covers?
That's no-till cover.
Yeah. Is it holding up pretty good? Not bad. But the covers make a difference. They make a difference. Now, does it look as good as this? No. We have a long ways to go. But I've seen fields like this turn to fields like this. Covers. And bringing, your rotations make a huge difference. It really, and that's why I love what you're doing, Jason. You're looking for every opportunity to change the architecture up here, but you're changing the architecture down here. That's why it is critical, that living root, so that we can think, and coming to your point about getting enough nutrient cycling. So that's why we're backing off on nutrients, because we're changing the house and the habitat and we're feeding the organisms. Our soils are carbon depleted. You know what the average organic matter was here? What do you think it was? I looked at the data.
Gotta be kind of low, right?
3 or 4.
2 to 0.6 average of all those plots out there we're going to look. What was it at one time here? 6 to 8%. They were high. Would you agree with that? What were the average? Yeah, they were high. They were high. Every part of the I states was some of the richest soils in the world, guys. There's only 4 places in the world that have soils like the United States: Argentina,
And
Ukraine, and there's a little spot in China.
Yes.
Yep. The prairie soils. So this is how I can tell right away. So here's the thing: when you go out in the field, so what you can do, it's pretty simple. Get one of those water bottles. Where's one of those water bottles we got?
They're in the,
Could you grab one, please?
they're inside my truck, Brad.
Yeah, get Brad.
5-3.
So what you do, guys, it's real easy. You grab a chunk. Real simple little method. And you start watching. Look how the soil starts to dissolve. Rotation, not enough covers. Falling apart, not holding together. Not enough carbon, not enough food. Pretty darn easy to do outside the field. This is where you're at. Now, do the same test for you. I'm going to pour it. Pour it over there. She goes, oh, I never screwed up my shot. How's this? Look at that. It's able to withstand the forces, guys. This is why it's so darn critical. It improves your structure, it improves planting, everything you want from the soil to perform, and it cycles more. Look at that. He's trying to make it. We'll get the water hose. He's going to do it. Look at that.
You got any mud on your hands?
Now notice, no mud in your hand. Look at me. Oh, by the way, less maintenance on your equipment, less fuel usage. It takes a lot of money to make dirt. That's dirt. When you take it out of its context and you move it, you created dirt. Soils are dynamic living ecosystems. They're subaquatic, they're alive. Here's one of the things I tell producers: if you don't understand that's alive like you and your dog, you're never going to get it. You're not committed. Your mindset's wrong. So here's the thing, one more thing we can do here. You want to try another, this is really holding out really well. Now look, here's another thing I want you to try. Oh, let's open it up. I had a farmer tell me, he says, Ray, you threw a rock in there. You put a rock in there. Water didn't soak in. That's what he told me. I heard of all the things they tried to tell me. Open it up. See if the water got in.
It's wet all the way through.
All the way through.
Like
Isn't that
mom's
amazing?
chocolate cake.
Isn't that amazing? Now, look at that. Look, oh, there's a little bit of life there too. Yeah, right. The water went all the way through. Now we're going to do another one, and then we'll do the conventional, real quick. Okay, we'll do the concrete. Okay, let's do this one. You drop it in, and we'll give it a couple of minutes to soak, and to see how it works. Go. Yeah, I think we're good. So I'm hoping we have enough to be able to break it open.
This is conventional no-till,
That's conventional.
or just?
Yeah, just plain conventional, right?
Which one was it?
The one I threw the
Yeah,
brick.
that's conventional too. That was
the same one.
de-ripped last fall.
Yeah,
Is that the same one he had?
yeah, I just dropped it right there.
Yeah, that's just a new one.
Yeah.
That's the one that's been running over there.
Okay. The no-till, now notice, this is the no-till we just did a while ago, right? Remember that?
Yeah, that's no-till with cover crops.
That's no-till with cover crop. But look at this, guys. Not enough carbon. We still don't have enough carbon.
That builds over a few years.
Yeah, it takes a while. But you give me 3 to 5 years consistently. I'm going to show you some pictures of Tennessee 50-inch rain. After 4 or 5 years, their soil completely changed.
Right, 3 years covered.
Yeah.
Well, another question is what level of non-physical system we have, the chemical and
That's a good point. See, here's another thing too, guys. We're not backing off. And you bring up a wonderful point. We went to Iowa and taught in school. Too much manure and too much nitrogen does the same thing, guys. It dissolves the aggregates. The soil's trying to balance its ratio out. It's not just about the tillage. Gotta back off from the fungicides. Gotta back off from the chemicals. That the nitrogen is killing us. We're putting too much nitrogen out there.
You know, I like your ecological comparison about our strategists and case strategists. It seems that what we're doing, because nature will find an open patch of things to conquer, and our strategies will go there first, prepare the ground, and then the case strategies are the ones that take over our strategies, and then they're the ones who stabilize the system for eons.
Really?
It almost seems like what we're doing is that we really created that system every single year. We are creating the process, the complicated process of creating an ecosystem. We are not letting it be and creating over the long term, but every single year has to go through that process of being back to the rock, and then we create the whole process again. And it takes so much energy to create that process again,
Thank
that
you.
you're taking the energy away from feeding the plant.
You get it. You get it. You know what I tell people? I have more hope for the Ukraine or Chernobyl to heal than our agriculture fields. I'll say it again. I have more hope for Chernobyl healing than our agriculture fields. For exactly the same thing you said. We're always disturbing. We never give it enough time to heal. What we're saying is you go to no-till and covers and start doing the things, it'll start healing for you. But it's also the plants you put out there, and its rotations matter. It matters how you farm. It really does. Once you start understanding how the system works, it's exciting. You're gaining. So let's see if this one, it probably went through. There's probably nothing left. I'll open it up for you so you can get your fingers all. It went through, but there's nothing to hold. It's dissolved. Now, when you rut your fields, it's okay. Go fix them. Go plant a cover. If I have to do tillage, you know when I do my tillage? When it's cold. Really cold. Why? because I don't want those organisms eating all my glues, so if they're cold, they barely moving, so they don't eat my house. They need temperature and moisture. So if you go do your tillage when it's moist and temperature, they're gonna eat your lunch. So if you have to do a disturbance, do it when it's cold. If you have to fix a field, do it when it's cold.
Years ago, the old farmers would say, you know, if you plowed in the summertime, you lost something out of the soil because it was all black.
Yep.
During the hot part of the year.
Yep, you did lose something, you lost a lot. Those microbes ate your lunch. And see, I had an old rancher tell me, Ray, I'm not gonna stop tillage. I said, I don't care what you say. I go, why? He goes, Ray, when I till, I see my plants get greener. I said, yeah. You burn the house down to warm up a hot dog. I said, what a stupid thought process. Cover, you don't want to prime for nutrients. Plant the dang cover. When you till to prime the soil, you burn the dang house down. That is ridiculous. So you have to be careful how you do business. Let's do one more, and then we'll go on the field. I got infiltration rings, and we're going to go do these infiltration rings, and we'll clean up this mess. Promise you. Okay? Okay, let's do one more. You grab. Grab one. Yes, go ahead.
These two are both clean water.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Let's do it. Let's do a couple more. We already did the forest. Which ones did you grabbed it from here, didn't you?
This one here is no till with no cover crop.
Okay, let's do that.
And then that one over there we haven't run yet. It's the one that has the cover crop in over the summer last summer.
And then no-till.
No till, that's the longest term no till on the table.
Okay, there's the longest no-till right there. Still hard. Let's see how it does. This is what?
No till, no cover.
And this is the longest?
Yeah, longer no till, but it had the cover crop blend, 8-week.
Had oats on it and then an 8-week cover.
What kind of blend was it? Did it have a lot of legumes in it?
It had a decent amount of legumes in it.
Yeah. So, let me tell you, we had a situation in New Mexico where they had pivots, and the NRCS employee said, we did a really good job, we did an RMS plan, we feel comfortable, we ran all the models, we feel very comfortable with what we did. The agronomist who understands soil health, because you do, huh? Grab 2 cylinders, drop the soil in there, and the thing exploded. You know what he said? That's how worthless your plans and your models are. Careful how you interpret. The soil will always tell you where you're at. That's why I use water as the truth bearer. When you lay, how many of you lay concrete pads? How many of you put concrete down? It looks good from the eye, right? You want to know how good you get your concrete? Put a water on top of the surface. You can see all water's the same way. It will tell on you. You want to know how good the farmers are on the watershed? Go to the lake. It will tell you how good the agriculture is in the watershed. Loss of nutrients, sediment. We have reservoirs in this country now that are being filled with sediment, and they're spending millions of dollars of dredging. Which was this one?
That's no till cover crop.
This is going to hold out really nice. And it's pretty darn simple to fix. It is so simple to fix. But it's really tough to get people to change the mindset. Any questions, guys? Time for you to lead, Ray. But here's the thing. It was interesting. I was speaking to a group of 300 people. I grabbed somebody from the audience. Never met him. I happened to grab a conventional guy. We did this and we photographed. I mean, this was done in a big old setting. He did it and he dropped it, and we did the demos. It worked beautifully. I went to the bar and had a cold beer. I saw that farmer, and I just felt so bad. He was absolutely, somebody had just punched him in the stomach, and I said, did I offend you? Because I do have that ability to offend people, and I don't need to. He says, no, man, you don't understand. I'm a conventional till farmer. He said, when I saw that, he says, I don't want that to happen to my soils. It was personal. I was able to connect with him. This is how we are changing our country. This is what these demonstrations and that rain simulator has created this movement. That did it. That's why cover crops have expanded in the ice states by 77%. Indiana is one of the top states for cover crops. Did you guys know that? Illinois is coming along without the help of NRCS that much. Ooh, I didn't say that.
Still
But
doesn't feel like it when you're ever around.
it doesn't feel like it.
Some counties.
Some counties, but overall, the percentage, guys, and to your point, we're moving in the right direction. It's not quick enough for me. I would like to see us stabilize the weather. If we had,
Oh, you can.
and we had 20 million acres of cover crops, guys, in this country, they would make a difference. We're not asking for a huge much, but it will make a difference in the climate.
So there have been different life cycle analyses, and
Yeah.
some people are arguing that all the global warming problems will be fixed in the life cycle.
Come back.
That some people are saying.